Hi everyone, I am Yah Li. I am from Singapore. Thank you for tuning in and joining me on the journey of a lighting design entrepreneur today, wherever you are. So, like many of you, I am a lighting designer, and I work with the medium of light. So, about 15 years ago, I started on the journey of lighting design, and I worked for big, um, a very big firm. And what happened was in 2010, after we left the practice, we started thinking about my ex-colleague and myself, Teru. Teru went back to Japan, and two of us, we were still dreaming of how we can collaborate together with nothing more than just a passion and what we still want to do for lighting design and to create a difference in the world with the medium of light. So with this very idea and with this dream 10 years ago, we thought about like, okay, how can we collaborate without the ideas of being together physically? So the idea of Light Collab, the brand actually was conceived back then. So you can see here, Light Collab, the word is separated, and it's because of this gap between them and the whiteness of this canvas allow for possibilities and action to take place between the words. So we wanted to use light to review and accentuate the core principles of architectural design to create sustainable luminous environments. So the idea of two very different people, very different cultures coming together at different locations, yet being able to create magic together with light. So the idea of everyone having our own identity towards creating a common goal of light, two extreme polarities, just like warm versus cool, thus the use of blue and fluorescent orange in our branding color. So we have our first collaborators coming on board in 2010. And from the mega projects that we were very, very familiar with, we used to have a very comfortable office space. But of course, just like any startup, we couldn't afford a very comfortable office space back then. And this was actually one of our examples of a very first workspace in a public area. Of course, that was before COVID. So two of us, three of us in different locations. Yeah, and our first project came. So from mega projects that we were very familiar with, it was very interesting this journey that we really started going back to the basics of how do we communicate with clients and being on a very personal journey to discuss their needs for lighting for homes, interestingly, which when I was in a very big company, such very, very detailed discussions, very personal discussions was sometimes not very, very common. So in here, we also tried to create a difference to actually educate homeowners what lighting can do for them, and also how sometimes we just don't want any lighting fixtures at all, and to conceal them. And then we also had our very first project in Japan in 2011, 2012. So during this process, it was very, very interesting for us because we were totally excited to have overseas projects, especially in Japan. And especially to work with big brands, we work on IALD Center in Singapore that led us to the project in Tokyo, in Yokohama. This is actually one of the largest IALD center in Japan. And they wanted us to actually showcase, this as a lighthouse, what good lighting can do for their branding. And how, like good lighting design can actually assist and bring out the elements of branding and bring out their products in better light. So we started exploring And of course, working in a different context again, where, a German brand is asking for very perfect lighting. They have their own requirements in, in terms of their corporate identity, while the Japanese counterparts have a complete different perception of what good lighting should be. So one prefer warm, the other prefers cool. One prefers it to be uniformly bright, the other ones prefer contrast. So we as a lighting designer came in to actually started investigating how can we mediate and create a balance, that both sides will be very comfortable with. So this is actually the outcome. And it's also during this period where LED also starts to progress. So instead of metal headlights, we started exploring very high power LEDs with, of course, great limitations for 6-meter ceiling depth. So we tried to, create very welcoming spaces within a car showroom, the first Audi cafe to bring out the contrast and comfort. Yeah. And, so this was a very exciting and showcase and product for the people. So this was a very international group with the interior designer coming from Taiwan. We have our clients from Germany and also from Japan, and myself from Singapore, and of course, Teru from Japan. So presenting Audi Center, Minato Mirai, Yokohama. So next, we also had a very interesting journey to travel to Bangladesh, three of us, the first collaborators. So it was a very different experience traveling to this city. Um, and it we were this project which we were commissioned to do was actually a lighting tower, a freedom monument. So it was exactly at this park where, the people fought for freedom for years and many people died. And this was also the location where the historic freedom speech was given. And this this monument actually means a lot to the locals. And of course, from a lighting point of view, it's just a 45 meters tall tower, and the footprint was only 4.5 meters by 4.5 meters. And the task that we need to fulfill here is to make sure that the light tower can be seen from 30 kilometers around the city center. So this was a very interesting, and we thought like, okay, it should be quite easy to tackle until we realized that the glass tower is made of glass, obviously, and it's made of space frame. The architects told us that they do not want to see the space frames when we light it up, and all they want to see is the glowing tower made of glass, clear glass. And luckily for us, no science or physics can actually help us. No computer simulations can help us. We had to come to site, and they did a small mock-up, and we actually experimented with the use of glass and light. And we found a particular angle that we can actually catch the internal reflection, causing it to glow. Yes, and of course, working in in this context was very interesting, and communication was also difficult. And we literally, need to be site supervisors as well to show them how to manage the lighting fixtures and how to handle even the cabling. Yeah. So two Singaporeans and one Japanese trying to educate with them like, okay, we are facing a technical issue. How do we tune the searchlight so that we still get a 1 degree speed? Yeah. So the center photo and the photo on the right is actually the outcome of the tower. Yes. And it was a very meaningful journey for myself and the team, because we realized that as a lighting designer, we can actually create an impact on the nation. And the architect who has been working on this for 13 years was very excited and posted on social media. And then after that, we were very amazed, although we have gone back home, that we actually can see the comments of the residents, telling us like, oh wow, they saw the pool of light. And wow, this is one of the amazing, and it's like a pathway to heaven. And we were really, really comforted, and it actually gives us a lot of motivation of what we do and how light can actually, transform and impact a city, yeah, and give them freedom, you know. So, so in this case, we learned about how important our profession is and how powerful light can be as a tool, for even to showcase, freedom, the idea of freedom for a nation. Presenting Tower of Light, Dhaka, Bangladesh. So next, of course, it has been 5 years, and we work on numerous projects. And of course, the challenges doesn't stop there in different locations, but even in our home countries. Yeah, sometimes the doors are still closed because we have more established firms, and the challenges are they will ask you, do you have the right portfolio? Have you actually done this project before? And it was actually our task to start opening doors and bashing through, right? It slowly, no matter how difficult it was. And finally, we can actually see what's beyond the door slowly, and more doors open to us. So next, in 2016, it was we also had the good fortune to work with our collaborators in China as well. A friend actually, introduced us to a client, and again, it was very interesting because we didn't expect that we will be working together with an eraser factory to explore how light and what light can do for an eraser brand. And when they say, "Oh, our clients is an eraser factory," I said, "Okay, what can we do for them?" Okay, so later on we found out we received presents and packages of erasers, and they told us, "Okay, these are the things that we produce." And it was really, really fascinating. We put the fishes and the erasers to torture with light. Okay, we literally experimented and put them through different medium of light. Yeah, so you can see we use very low tech stuff. We use torchlight to understand like, okay, what is the experiment that we can do? Yeah, so we went back to the site, and the brief to us was that how can we create a lighting identity or to showcase the materiality of of the rubber material. So that was the greatest challenge for us from the lighting point of view. So of course, working in a different context again, it was very interesting. And then things can go wrong on site, and we have our installers really trying to string out all the eraser lights together. That was a very difficult task for him. So the whole idea of the eraser branding experience, and there was things about things, the idea of being erased, things that can be erased, and things that cannot be erased. So good memories, friendship, bravery, courage are things that cannot be erased, and things that can be erased are mistakes. Yeah, that stuff. So the idea of white and black and contrast, giving hope, this was a very important message of white and black and contrast. Yeah, running through this whole team. So in this space, not just are we supposed to light up the experience center, but we actually created numerous artworks within it using the ideas of the eraser. So first, um, when we don't have the lights on, we can actually see that this is just an ordinary space. But when we turn on some of the lighting fixtures, you can see that the light art actually magically transforms into a certain idea. So the first artwork that we did, if you can understand Chinese, this is actually we try to create the shadow of using eraser blocks and a spotlight to create the shadow of the Chinese name of the company. So the whole idea started when we initially were trying out, when we had small little erasers, and then we asked the eraser factory to glue it up for us on site, and we tested, and we deliberately choose white blocks so that the purity of the blocks can be kept. So it's only white and black. And then the next artwork is the this one where we were very fascinated with the colored erasers. So we actually use more white color spotlight, and but it's really the colors were actually obtained from the reflection of the erasers themselves. So it was the erasers are creating this artwork on their own. Yeah. So we try to put them together and see how close the block should be to conceal the fixtures. And the next one, we create the pendants. And if you can read the Chinese character again from the underside, is the black and white eraser blocks, creating the Chinese character of the name of the company again. And we also experimented with how warm, how translucent the material of the eraser should be. Yes. And we noticed that if it's too translucent, the material starts to, it doesn't retain the whiteness, but it starts to become gray or becomes orange. Yeah. So presenting Eaton Brand Experience Center in China. So while we start to open more doors, okay, we even traveled further this time to Abu Dhabi last year. And it was our good fortune to work with another big brand, Books Kinokuniya, a Japanese bookstore. And yeah, we started exploring with the ideas of bringing more natural light into the space, more diffuse light, and how the client wants it to be more diffuse. The idea of diffuse light, natural light, and also how can we bring softness into the space and yet creating a comfortable contrast. So the features of the wooden boxes in the ceiling runs throughout in the main circulation area. And yeah, and then we have the luminous lines actually to create different zones in the bookstore, which actually creates also like a form of identity that's another different area. Yeah. So that's the book Kinokuniya in Abu Dhabi. So last year we also had a good fortune to work with uh, with Waha on the Singapore Pavilion for the Dubai Expo. We also started exploring about how horticulture lighting can be used in the ideas of sustainability to grow plants when natural daylight is not sufficient, and also exploring with the manufacturers how we can bring um, horticultural lighting to the next level, so that it's also used for a light show, but it can also double up as using for growing the growth spectrum, and how we can control it in different times of the day, and also how every spectrum has its own meaning and purpose in this whole space. So this is actually what we hope to aim to do. Yeah. And so coming back to Singapore, yes. Um, from 2017 to 2019, for 3 years, we went on a journey and it's also an interesting journey for us because we started working on this religious building. And this process was interesting because it was very challenging for us because uh, we needed to understand, the religion and also the 3D sculptures and the different Buddhist statues in the space and also the architectural intent. We had a good fortune that the interior designer was very, very patient in explaining to us all the different elements. And there were so many different elements in that space, and we were actually worried about how the light and shadow will actually layer upon themselves. Um, so we also had challenges like working with the client, making them, it's a dialogue of trying to communicate about, the importance of lighting design, our profession, our advice, and also professional tools. Yeah. So we had to show a lot of mock-ups and we were explaining to them. And then when we were telling them, oh, this will actually create shadow, because they asked, why do you need so many layers of light? Can't you just use the spotlight? and then we even have to explain the shadow. And then when we turn on the fixture to show them color rendering, and they were actually saying like, oh, I can't really see the difference. So it was a challenge trying to communicate again and again. I think it took us like 5 meetings or more to actually explain why it was needed. And we went on site to carefully check, the interaction of the light with the gold color and the different colors that we have in the space. Yeah. So we have to carefully conceal the layers of lighting. And you can see in the stage, there's many big Buddhist statues. And it was very important to us that, we don't actually cast unnecessary or uncontrolled shadows onto one another. Yeah, so controlling the shadows here was very, very critical. Yeah, when there are so many 3D elements here, and yet creating layers and contrast, comfortable contrast. The client also told us the users are more elderly, and during ceremonies they need to kneel down. So the task level for them is actually the floor because they need to be very close to the ground to read the scriptures when they were kneeling, and it's not the normal task like level that we are looking at. So these are actually, when all the three elements are actually put in place and how the reflection of the goal actually plays a certain part. So that's Singapore Buddhist Lodge. So throughout my 10 years, I was very fortunate to travel around the world. It made me a world traveler, and then it allows me to see different colors of myself as an entrepreneur, as a designer, managing costs, being a mentor to the younger designers. And then sometimes it involves standing on dangerous grounds, communicating with our clients, challenging the norm, and also involve taking risks sometimes, and also make some things bigger than they are, creating landmarks, telling a story, and entering the homes of crazy rich Asians, challenging the norms of how supermarket lighting was perceived and how they can be different, and also painting the space for social gatherings. And now ladies can try out clothing at Instagrammable changing rooms, making a statement of it. And also, in touch with a higher order. So is this art, what we are doing? We are lighting designers, interestingly, but we also need to be architects, interior designers, physicists, biologists, sociologists, accountants, psychics to understand the brief of clients and what they want. I am a woman of light, and I'm a lighting design entrepreneur. During these 10 years, it was a very interesting journey for myself and my team members. It has been accompanied by this lovely group of people. So we were able to make a lot of things happen due to their dedication and determination. So presenting Light Collab, using light to reveal and accentuate the core principles of architectural design.